Welcome everyone, welcome to today's meetup. We're very happy that all of you could join us today. We're here today to hear from Cyrille. He's working as a product director of product management observability in Elastic, and he's going to talk to us about standardizing APM with OpenTelemetry and Elastic Observability, and he will introduce himself in more depth. We will take all the questions at the end. You can use the Q&A function or the chat. And yeah, that's it from me. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. So good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everybody. My name is Cyrille Clere, as it was said. I am a product manager lead at Elastic in charge of APM on user experience monitoring. And I am particularly acting on topics like OpenTelemetry at the moment. And so it will be a pleasure for me to present you how you can standardize today your observability on your APM with Elastic on OpenTelemetry. The agenda today: first, I will present some benefits of standardizing observability. And then we will go through what's OpenTelemetry. It's a pretty recent topic, so some of us may not be completely familiar with it. Then I will present you the integration model of observability solutions on APM with OpenTelemetry. Then I will show you how we can standardize APM with OpenTelemetry on Elastic with a demo, some best practices. And last, I will cover quickly something very exciting that we are doing at the moment, which is to instrument CI/CD with OpenTelemetry. So the benefits of standardizing observability, we have identified three very important benefits. One is to remove vendor lock-in. So we know there are different observability vendors or solutions, open source solutions, commercial solutions. And sometimes you want to mix and match the different solutions. Sometimes you want to move from one to another. And here with OpenTelemetry, you will be able to have to remove a big part of the vendor lock-in. A second benefit is to lower the learning curve. If you have one observability standard to instrument your application, then much more developers and engineers will be familiar with the way it works, with the way to enrich your instrumentation, and you will get much more value. Another key advantage is the catalog of instrumentation. We have an increasingly growing number of systems to monitor with more programming language, with more programming frameworks, databases, cloud services. On every single observability vendor has to instrument all these backends, all these languages and frameworks. It's getting more and more difficult. And here we have the opportunity to collaborate together to instrument well things to instrument for observability on so that everybody can leverage this. So these are the three key benefits that you will get typically with standardization. So now I will cover what's OpenTelemetry and how it is providing you these benefits. OpenTelemetry is an open source project. It's a CNCF project. So it's open source, it's business friendly, it's a governed model. On some very important things to have in mind about OpenTelemetry, it's not just about traces that relates to applications. The mission of OpenTelemetry is to unify observability, which means unifying all layers, application layer on infrastructure layer, and also unifying all data types, traces, metrics, and logs. Traces is the first data types on which OpenTelemetry has been matured, and now it's really matured. Metrics is almost stable. On logs, it's emerging and it's progressing fast. So this is a very important thing. We want to unify everything, all layers, all kind of data with OpenTelemetry, which, by the way, at Elastic was something that we were very familiar with because it's already something that we've been doing with our observability offer. Now let's look at what OpenTelemetry is producing. In the past, we were familiar with OpenTracing, OpenCensus that were APIs, but not implementations. And here with OpenTelemetry. OpenTelemetry is producing standards, a standard set of standard APIs, like OpenTracing, for example, some standards on data formats. What is the format of a distributed trace? What is the format of an histogram? On the protocols, which is the OpenTelemetry protocol, which will allow us interoperability between systems. So this is the first part, providing standards. Then something else very important to understand about OpenTelemetry is that it is providing also some open source collectors, canonical implementations, APM agents, metric collectors, and logs collector. And these are not like reference implementations that every project, every vendor will re-implement. It's really a canonical implementation that is the foundation of observability for typically for all the vendors who are looking at integrating in this OpenTelemetry ecosystem. And I will show you with architecture diagram how it enables the removal of vendor locking. Another important point on OpenTelemetry, it's likely to replace, to become an alternative to some things that we've been using so far. On traces, you can think of OpenCensus, OpenTracing, Jaeger, and Zipkin for the collection layer of this. So OpenCensus and OpenTracing being the collection APIs. They are likely to become alternative to this. And we see that Jaeger typically is embracing OpenTelemetry. So this was for traces. On logs, if we consider FluentBit and FluentD, these are also typically collectors that for which we will have an alternative, which is the log collector that OpenTelemetry is creating at the moment. And for metrics, if you think about statsd, collectd, as well, OpenTelemetry will provide an alternative. The benefit for the users, as we have said, a unification of logs, metrics on APM, removing vendor locking, lowering the learning curve on a better instrumentation with a broader catalog of instrumentation. Now, what will be the impact on the observability landscape? First, it's vendor friendly. So you will see that open source project, maybe like Jaeger, like Zipkin, they are integrating in OpenTelemetry. And you will see also that vendors and companies who build open solutions like us, Elastic, we integrate on also the cloud vendors. You can think of Google, AWS, they also integrate in this OpenTelemetry ecosystem. Will it be a disruption? In the short term, it's unlikely. Applications that are already instrumented, already monitored, it's unlikely that we will change them, data collection layer. But in the medium term, it's maybe OpenTelemetry data collection layers will become the dominant collectors, providing this interoperability. How to integrate OpenTelemetry? The first generation of integration of OpenTelemetry before the protocol was stable was to introduce, so it was OpenTelemetry was stable, getting stable on the APIs, but not the protocols on the format. So here the first integration was to inject the vendor exporter inside each OpenTelemetry agent. But then the downside of this is that you had vendor-specific exporter in each instrumentation, in each instrumented application. So this was the first generation. Then the second generation of instrumentation is to rely on OpenTelemetry Collector. OpenTelemetry Collector is a daemon that you install on your host and that is intended to collect metrics, to collect logs, and to act as a gateway, sometimes as a forwarding router of your messages. On here, the integration model is to use the OpenTelemetry Collector to plug your vendor-specific exporter that speaks your vendor protocol. So it can be the Elastic APM server protocol. It can be the Jaeger protocol. And then every instrument application will use a pure OpenTelemetry data collection layer, a pure OpenTelemetry agent that will send the data, observability data, using the OpenTelemetry collector protocol to the collector that will be the translator in the middle. So here with this model, you already have all your instrumented applications using pure OpenTelemetry instrumentation. So you solve the problem of vendor locking, of catalog of instrumentation on these programming languages, on also the learning curve because you use these standard OpenTelemetry things. On the third generation of integration of OpenTelemetry is likely to be that every observability vendor or observability backend will talk the OpenTelemetry protocol, so that on all your observability collection layer, on transport layer, you will be pure OpenTelemetry, vendor agnostic, no lock-in. These technologies that will get very popular, we think. And then it's each vendor that will speak the OpenTelemetry language with the protocol, on probably adopting also the data model, the concepts, the semantic conventions. Where we are at Elastic, so for a while now, we have been having our exporter that is installed on the OpenTelemetry collector. You will see most of the OpenTelemetry actors, they do like this. So here we support traces on metrics, and we are working at logs, implementing logs at the moment. On what we are considering at Elastic is heading toward a model where we would natively support the OpenTelemetry protocol, making the deployment architecture even simpler. So now I will show you, this was a presentation on how OpenTelemetry works, how you integrate with this. So now I'm going to present you how we implement standardized APM with Elastic on OpenTelemetry. For this, I will show you how you can get OpenTelemetry traces. So we will get distributed traces with an OpenTelemetry agent to collect all the application traces, and we will have an example with a sample e-commerce application that will have multiple services like an anti-fraud service, a database, and we will see our distributed traces, and we will also be able to report to create dashboards based on all these data that I have collected on here. For an e-commerce website, for example, a dashboard that is very important, a key performance indicator is the sales, the revenue of your website. And we will implement this with OpenTelemetry instrumentation. We will also look at metrics. As I've said, OpenTelemetry is unifying traces on metrics on logs. Logs is not yet ready, but it's early stage. And so here in the same application, I will also, in addition to my distributed traces, I will collect some business KPIs in the form of application metrics to monitor additional business KPIs on my application, on my demo. So it will be the transactions and the sales, for example, of my application. I will show you also another use case of OpenTelemetry metrics when I can collect metrics in my instrumentation, which is to instrument the frameworks that are not natively instrumented by my APM agent. And so here I will have an example of a cache in a caching layer in my application that is not auto-instrumented by OpenTelemetry, and so I will manually instrument it with the metrics API. We will also be able to see how we are able to collect infrastructure metrics, but this is very early stage in the OpenTelemetry project, so I will not spend too much time on this. So let's go to the demo. We had a question from Dan. Instead of deploying file bit, metric bit on APM agent, I could deploy OpenTelemetry. Yes, that's true, Dan. However, if we look at this architecture diagram, we have to keep in mind that OpenTelemetry, we still have the idea to deploy two layers of collectors. One is the agent inside your application. On one other layer is a collector that you deploy on your host, in your Kubernetes cluster, or on your VMs that are able to collect system metrics and so on. So now I will go to the demo. The demo today is based on Java. I am a Java developer. before being a product manager, I was a developer. So I did it in Java. It will be standard Spring Boot application, microservices, I have said, PostgreSQL. And I have also implemented the load tester that I've created, my injector, to have longer traces. On all these components, all these agents, pure OpenTelemetry agents will send their observability data to my OpenTelemetry collector and will push all these to Elastic. So what we will see today is how I instrument my application. So here, this is a standard APM agent. So it's a Java agent. So it's a very simple command line. Here I'm starting a Spring Boot application. I have a bunch of attributes to configure as environment variables, typically about the OpenTelemetry protocol endpoint. So this is my OpenTelemetry collector, and it runs on my box. And then I have to give details about my application name, its version, the environment is staging, for example, on a namespace, which is a way in OpenTelemetry to group applications together and services together for better simplified observability, where I can group things together. So I will see a simple way to instrument my application is very turnkey. Here I would also illustrate the OpenTelemetry project has just released a version 0.15, which is the first release candidate in Java. And I could bump all my dependencies today. I bumped Java agent, I bump also the OpenTelemetry collector, and it was very straightforward. I didn't have any breaking change. I didn't have to change my application beyond just bumping the APIs. So once I have instrumented my application with OpenTelemetry agent, I will be able to capture my distributed traces. On here, I have 70 plus auto-instrumentations on the Java agent of OpenTelemetry. So can you hear me? Because my camera seems to be frozen according to the software. I will.
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah.
The video is good. Okay. So as I said, there are already 70 plus auto-instrumentation on the Java agent of OpenTelemetry. So most of the framework are discovered. On what we know on distributed traces is that in addition to the out-of-the-box instrumentation provided by your APM solution, it is very valuable to also collect some business attributes on your traces to enrich your data to be able to have more efficient investigation. When I have a problem, let's say here it's an e-commerce solution, so I will show you. My e-commerce application. When I troubleshoot my application, let's say it's an e-commerce, I will be, oh, it's a demo effect. Yeah, no, it's a bit slow, but it works. Sometime what I have to troubleshoot, maybe an outage caused by a specific type of business invocation, maybe specific to the payment method like Visa or American Express or PayPal, or maybe it can be specific to my shipping country like France or US. So it's very valuable when I investigate to capture some additional attributes on my traces. Now we'll see this. And then I will collect, as I said, metrics. So here it is an example with the OpenTelemetry APIs on how to create a metric, a long counter to that I've used on my anti-fraud service to monitor the activity of the anti-fraud checks, like is it approved, is it rejected, and I will do dashboard on this. And then I will show you how I am able to create dashboards. Oops, sorry, it goes too fast. Dashboards, both of my on the distributed transactions I have captured, and also on the metrics I have captured. So, as we have seen, this is my e-commerce application where I can buy stuff, and sometime it is successful, sometime it is rejected. Now let me go to my project. So I will, the project is on GitHub, so I will share with you the code. Let's look at my front-end application. So this is my shell script to start the command line. At the beginning, I have some, I set up my test, but this is basic stuff. On here, you can see how I can start my Java agent, my Java Spring Boot application. So as you could see, it is very simple. I export as an environment variable few attributes, and then I connect the Java agent on my application is started. And my application is here at the moment. This was for my instrumentation. So I will come back to my distributed traces. Oh, maybe I should show you that I have also started the OpenTelemetry collector. So the OpenTelemetry collector, something convenient on that will not be a surprise to you is that it's written in Golang. So it's a single executable that is very easy to run. And this is, so it's a simple executable that you can download for Linux, for Mac, for the language, the platform that matters to you. So I have started mine with a pretty simple YAML file. As you can imagine, it's a CNCF project and it's a modern project, so it's YAML. And you will see that I have an exporter toward Elastic. So here, my traces, I will send them to Elastic. On my metrics, I will send them to Prometheus onto Elastic. So this is a setup I configure in OpenTelemetry collector. These are called pipelines. So for metrics, I will receive the OpenTelemetry protocol and I will collect those metrics. And I will push them to the Prometheus exporter, the Elastic exporter on logging as well, as you can see on the bottom of my screen. And if we look at traces, I receive them using the OpenTelemetry protocol so that every application agent can push to OpenTelemetry collector, and I export them to Elastic as a backend. So when I look at my traces, they will come from all my application agents, the front end, the anti-fraud, on what I call the monitor, which is the injector. On here, you can see I have the front end, I have the anti-fraud service, PostgreSQL, my database has been discovered on my monitor is the injection. And I can get all the key, the golden signals of my application, like transaction duration, traffic, 160 requests per minute on the transaction, the error rate, 2.8%. So here you could see I have instrumented with Elastic, instrumented with OpenTelemetry agent connected to Elastic APM. On everything has been auto-discovered through auto-instrumentation. It's standard Spring Boot, and I have all my metrics that matters to me. And if I go on the service detail of my front-end service, I have my metrics that are here. And if I go on the create order transaction, I can see my distributed traces as I told you. On here, I told you something very important, as we've seen, is to collect additional information on your traces to get more business logic. And so here, the way I have done it is, let me find the order controller. So my Spring Boot service. Let me zoom on. You can see that here, this is a create order operation in Spring Boot. It takes a request which is mapped as an order form. I also have the HTTP request and it will return a response entity. I get the span, and then I am able to do many things. I can create an event that I attach on my span. So here, the event will be the order creation with a bunch of attributes to have good observability. And I can also add some attributes to my distributed trace. Here's the order price range, a shipping country, shipping method, payment method. On when I go back to my trace, you can see that I have the customer ID. So if I have to do some troubleshooting, and let's see that we have some slow requests. You see, I have some requests that are very fast, shorter than 0.5 seconds. And then I have some that are pretty long. And if I investigate on this one to understand what's happening, I can see if my attributes here, this is a large shopping cart. So it's a pretty expensive shopping cart. It's paid with a credit card on it's shipping in the US with a shipping method that is standard. It's instead of express. So here I have collected all my some key business attributes that helps me to understand what the nature of the business transaction I am monitoring and will help me to troubleshoot. So this is the way I have instrumented with OpenTelemetry my traces, and I have enriched them with additional business attributes to have a better understanding. Now, I will show you how I can add business indicators as metrics. And here I like it very much in OpenTelemetry that we have the same unified API for traces and for metrics. Is there any question? Or I'm wondering if my screen has a problem. Any question? Oh, sorry, I am checking. So let me continue. So for the we said the business metrics. So I will show you how to instrument with the OpenTelemetry metrics API, and then I will show you how to visualize them. So here I will take the anti-fraud controller, and I have been injected the meter. Where did I do it? So here I inject the meter, which is the OpenTelemetry meter to monitor duration. On then in my application at the initialization, I can create some metrics. So thank you, Dalia. And I cannot read the question if there are some in the chat window. So please tell me if it's the case. Yeah. So.
You want me to read it for you now, or at the end is also okay?
Maybe I will. Yeah, I will at the end. Maybe I'll go fast on. Except if it makes sense to interrupt me now, please tell me.
Let's do it at the end.
Okay, so here I am creating some counters. You can see we have pretty rich APIs. So here this will be value recorders. They are here to create histograms. On counters, they are typically ever increasing counters. And so here you can see on my anti-fraud service that I will increment the anti-fraud checks. Like I will increment the number of rejected orders on the number of approved orders. And now if I go to my screens, I will go in Jenkins, in Elastic, sorry. So here's the metrics. These are application metrics. So they will be created in the APM metric index. If you have in mind, now we are evolving toward data streams in Elastic. So it will be easier to visualize data as the need to shift from one index to another will be reduced. So here I can see my metrics flowing in Kibana discovered. And so if I look at some attributes, I will see them. Do I have it? So here you can see some attributes that are collected. So approved orders, rejected orders, on this document, I had 1,000 approved on 500, almost 500 rejected. And with all this data, I will show you how this is visible in my JSON document. So you can see here, anti-fraud rejected, and so on. Oops, sorry, let me mute this. And now I will show you how I can leverage these metrics in a dashboard. So I have created my my Kibana dashboard with all the metrics that matters to me. The time interval here is not good. So here first, I have created dashboards based on the distributed traces transactions on traces. On here, I am able to create based on transaction, for example, the number of transactions in the sense of e-commerce transactions, e-commerce orders on the sales, which is a sum of these. On next to it, I will show you how I leverage the metrics as well. So if I go in edit, here, this is pretty simple for people who are familiar with Elastic. I will look at the APM span document. On here, I will do a count of all my spans of this nature, and I will get the right number of orders. And then if I go to the sales, which is the amount of money, there will be a bit more work. On here, you will see that I will work on my span document, and I will do a sum of an attribute which is called order price. And immediately I will have my graph of the amount of money purchased in time on the platform. So this is an example on how I can use the traces on the spans collected by observability, by instrumentation. I leverage the fact that I could add attributes on this request, like order price. Yeah, it's kind of one I didn't report, but I also report order price as a span attribute. And then I am able to create a graph from this. So here we would see order price somewhere. I will continue with another graph, which is based on metrics. So this is the same. I go in the APM metric index. Here I have filtered on my service name anti-fraud. And I am taking the positive rate of this ever-increasing counters that I named anti-fraud approved order count. And I created a second graph, a second line with the rejected order count. And that's it. I also have an example with how to instrument a caching mechanism, a cache, but maybe I'll take the question first, if it works for you. Okay. Can you tell me what are the questions? Because I think that my browser is frozen on the community site. Yeah.
You want me to read you the questions, or?
Yes, or maybe you can send them to me by Slack, because Slack is not frozen. So that would be, I'm sorry for this cumbersome thing.
Yeah, let me just see. Did you already see the question about Unix Linux system perspective?
No.
Okay, so we have a question from Unix Linux system perspective. Where does our syslog sit as a log data collection agent in the OpenTelemetry ECO system?
So what comes to my mind here, if we think about syslog, I think that the integration would typically be that the OpenTelemetry collector one day will learn how to collect syslog. It's already able to collect the FreeMD protocol. So additional protocol will come. Let's check quickly if you are patient. I think it's on the OpenTelemetry collector. So you have the concept of receivers on OpenTelemetry collector. Here we have statsd, we have stanza, which is a log collector. And I think that later somebody is likely to do something for syslog.
Then we have another question. Let's assume if the application doesn't use APM agents, in such case, is it possible to capture the get, put requests from web-based application, time taken to process each request?
Yes, it is. So here you would typically rely on auto-instrumentation because web frameworks are auto-instrumentation. And if you look at the OpenTelemetry Java agent, you will see many web frameworks that are instrumented. So you can see, I've seen that recently they have improved the JSF support. On most MVC framework will be supported by, you see Spark Web Framework, Spring Web Framework, and so on. So yeah, it will be, it's likely to be auto-instrumented, or otherwise you can write your own instrumentation. It's pretty easy. Another question, please?
That's it for now. There's no more.
Okay, I will use the remaining minutes to some best practices to embrace OpenTelemetry. Something very important to have in mind is that you can combine application instrumented with the Elastic APM agent with application instrumented with the OpenTelemetry agent. And the reason it works is that Elastic has adopted a while ago the standard for distributed trace propagation, which is called the W3C trace context. And so thanks to this, you can have some application instrumented with Elastic APM, some application instrumented with the OpenTelemetry agent. And if they all push their traces to Elastic, then you will see the unified distributed traces. And this allows us to recommend you to do an incremental rollout and to progressively instrument new applications or applications that are not yet instrumented with OpenTelemetry. There is a question of programming language to use because OpenTelemetry is not yet GA. And there are some agents that are more mature than others. And here, typically, the Java agent is very mature. It's release candidate now. You will see the Python agent, the Golang agent on SDK. All these are very mature, so you have to verify that the instrumentation that matters to you is mature enough. On if you instrument applications that were, so as we've seen, first you can start instrumenting new application with OpenTelemetry so that you have all the time to qualify that the agent you have chosen works well. Then you can cover your applications that are not yet instrumented by any APM solution. And then what we have seen works well is to say, let's migrate applications that are that are exclusively relying on on auto-instrumentation, or that are using open tracing, because then OpenTelemetry agent is capable of discovering it. And then you will migrate eventually. The last application you would migrate are the applications that have manual instrumentation of your previous technology. So this is the path forward that we recommend. And you should do it in a completely incremental way. Now, I will present you another topic which makes us excited at Elastic is a slightly different topic, which is how to instrument CI/CD, on how we feel OpenTelemetry will make it much more easy. First, instrumenting CI/CD is a very important thing, and you can get great benefits of it. It's important because we say that CI/CD is critical. It must be highly available because it's a way to produce your software. So if it's broken, then engineering productivity is completely broken. And also, if you have to deliver an emergency fix, you need your CI/CD platform to be up and running. And so here, observability can bring you several things. One, it can help you to monitor the health of your CI/CD platform, ensuring that you have enough build agents, that they are running efficiently, that you are not wasting with too many unused build agents, that your jobs are not blocked. And also, observability on APM can help you to monitor the performance of each individual pipeline, to understand if what is making your CI/CD pipeline slow, on when something is getting bad, to alert you on the fact that performance are degrading. And we think that APM is well suited to monitor and troubleshoot CI/CD, because when we look at what we have built-in platform monitoring capabilities in APM. So monitoring a CI/CD platform, it's about monitoring the build queue, monitoring the build agent to see their CPU, and so on. And here, an APM is very mature at doing this. On that, what we have seen is that when we think about a CI/CD pipeline, it's a very good fit to monitor this with distributed traces, where each step of your pipeline would be a span in a distributed trace. And like this, you will benefit of many capabilities of APM on observability, such as collecting a lot of information on each step of your pipeline to be able later to detect anomalies, like a step is taking more time than usual, or when you investigate, have all the attributes on collected a lot of contextual information of your system, maybe the version of the different components involved, to be able to do investigation on any dimension. We usually say slice and dice. Maybe to look, let's say my pipeline is getting slow. Maybe it's the Git checkout that is slow, but then I want to verify if all the Git checkouts of my CI platform are getting slow because I have a global Git issue, or maybe see if it's specific to this this pipeline, or maybe if it's related to the fact that this pipeline is running on a new version of the build agent that has a new version of the Git client that has a problem. On here, also something very valuable with observability on APM is that we have automated anomaly detection built in that are a good fit to monitor these CI/CD problems, as I said, when a type of build step is getting wrong. Is it only for one pipeline, or is it for multiple pipelines? On CI/CD, we integrate many systems. We set the Git repository, also your repository of artifacts, your Docker registry. And so here, APM on distributed traces are very well suited at monitoring these type of microservice or distributed system. And we have all the instrumentation for this. And so what I will show you is that with OpenTelemetry, we have been able to create an instrumentation for Jenkins. So one of the reasons I come from CloudBees, where I've worked on Jenkins in the past. Let me take more history of my jobs. On here, I am monitoring some, so I've created some jobs in Jenkins. Here I have one. I have a plugin that listens to the Jenkins jobs execution, and also collecting some additional information on the behavior of Jenkins. And I am able to visualize this as distributed traces. So here you can see one pipeline that is modeled as a distributed trace. I have my prepare stage. So this is a kind of fake pipeline. I could have done a more realistic pipeline, but here you will see my Git checkout. It took 700 milliseconds. On here, I will be able to capture on which host it run, and then I will be able also to capture additional information like the GitHub URL that I have invoked, and then my shell script here took 6 seconds. And so this is the idea that we have at Elastic, and we are going to present it at FOSDEM, is how we are able to observe CI/CD platforms, on how we are able to do it in a standardized way with OpenTelemetry, so that we will have more and more CI/CD platforms that will be instrumented with OpenTelemetry on giving all this visibility to the application on CI teams. So this is something we are working on at the moment, and we are going to present some of this work soon in a FOSDEM conference that is coming. Thank you very much. Dalia, do we have additional questions? Can you hear me?
Sorry, just 1 second. I was trying to get my thing up and running. Let me see. Yeah, we have a follow-up question of the last one. Is there a sample reference project available on the instrumentation with Elastic Cloud / Enterprise? Yes.
So for the moment, the best example, so we have some docs available on here. We maintain an example that I maintain here with, maybe I will share it with you on Slack, Dalia, on then if you can share it through the chat window of the community site. So here you have an example, the examples that I have demoed with setup instructions. So it's just PostgreSQL on 3 Java applications. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, just put it inside.
Thank you.
And that's it for the moment. Questions?
No other question? Okay. So please feel free to ask for any question or on something. Yeah, what's coming next? An important thing that will be that will come in the future is that OpenTelemetry is heading toward GA status. It should come in the. I think it's a question of weeks or months. The community will decide. What we see is that the Java agent has reached release candidate stage. The traces, they are declared stable, so they will now not move anymore. The APIs, I think the metrics APIs, they have few tweaks to do on the APIs, but it should be very minor. So it's a question of weeks. So it's, and before it gets GA status, so it's a good time to start doing a proof of concepts on considering it. Any other question?
Coming now. Starting now, should we use OpenTelemetry agents instead of APN, RUM, Elastic agents for the new applications we want to monitor?
So that's a good question. So Elastic will continue to support and to invest in its agents. I would say that if you continue on the Elastic agent mode, then you continue to leverage all our capabilities on all our investments, and we have some capabilities on the Elastic agent that you will not get on the OpenTelemetry agent, such as inferred span, our profiling capability, and such as the remote configuration mechanism. Now you can consider embracing OpenTelemetry agents for some project as well, because we support it well, and we ensure that OpenTelemetry is a first-class citizen on our platform. On sometime OpenTelemetry supports more auto-instrumentation than what we do. So it will depend on the project you are on. But we work at having a full support of OpenTelemetry. We have some things missing on metrics, but it's minor at the moment, and we are working fast on it. And at the same time, we continue to invest and innovate on our agents.
There is also another one coming at the moment. Does your OpenTelemetry collector Elastic plugin supports HTTPC with some self-certificate authority, like CA?
Yeah, HTTPS with self-sign, indeed it does. So we can look at the OpenTelemetry collector Elastic. And now these are the receivers. I have to go in the exporters. But yes, you can use self-sign certificates. It will work. I think you have an insecure option to disable TLS, and then it will work.
Awesome.
Otherwise, you can deploy the certificates, as you can see here as well.
Okay, that is the last question for the moment.
Okay. Oops.
Yep. Did you finish with the whole presentation?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I am finished with the presentation.
All right. Let's see if anyone has any last questions, or if not, we can wrap it up. Let's see. I think that's it. I don't think anyone is asking anything else at the moment.
That's perfect then.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Today. It was great, and I hope everyone enjoyed it. And we hope to see all of you again in our meetups next time. Thank you, Dan. Thanks for your question as well.
Thank you.
And thank you, Cyrille, for presenting today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone, and have a great evening. Bye.